What's up, Internet? You're tuned in. I fucked that up. Hold on. What's up, Internet? You're tuned in to episode 249 of the Comics Pals. I'm your host this week, Pete and Bessie, joined by Cale.
That's me.
And Tyler.
That is also me.
Tyler, look at you, man. 2 weeks in, you're already up in the big leagues.
I know. I feel like I'm getting called up to Raw or SmackDown. This is not the audience for that. I don't know.
Well, it kind of is.
Called up to fight Captain America.
Is that what I would be Captain Insano if we're gonna keep the
Well, because you're Spider-Man.
Yeah, no, I like that. You're like a street level hero. Now you're getting called up to the Avengers.
Yeah.
You know?
Okay.
Yeah.
Pretty big.
I mean, I could be like Daredevil, who's just like, I'm good. I'm okay.
No, that's Murphy.
Yeah, that's for sure.
He was in the game, but then he got out because it's too nasty.
Yeah.
I'm going back to Hell's Kitchen.
There's that last shot of him leaving the Long Box podcast. He was walking down an alleyway with his microphone and a trash can behind him.
Yep.
The Long Box no more.
Yep, exactly.
Anyway, this is the Comics Pals. We're a weekly comic book podcast where a group of comic book journalists and friends get together to talk about comics because we don't talk enough about comics in our daily lives. I got there, kind of.
Nailed it.
Thank you.
I wouldn't be able to do it. So
I appreciate the support, you know?
Comic book friends and journalists. What's a comic book friend? It's us.
It's us. We're the Comics Pals. See, it works.
I've said this before, and I'll go on record saying it several more times. I am no journalist.
Okay.
But I am a comic book friend.
Okay.
I think that's what matters most.
There we go.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, welcome to the show. Sean, Marco, and Phil not here this week. Marco and Phil not being here, not exactly news, but Sean not being here, I promise I'm going to do the best I can. I've got, he wrote me a short novella on what happened in the world of comics this week. So,
It's a full newspaper.
Yeah, basically, Sean, very much a comic book journalist, actually does his homework. Yeah. So thank God for him.
The amount of time it took him to write that, he could have just been on the show. Like,
look, all right, he needed a vacation.
He needed a vacation. Then I look and it's like, posted 3 hours ago, and this was at 9 a.m. this morning, and I'm like, what are you doing, Sean?
I know.
He needed a vacation, but he still did the work.
He's just addicted. He can't get away from the news, you know?
It's passion. It's pure passion.
He's got a nose for news, you know? But before we get into the news, there was a little thing that happened this week on Comics Twitter that I thought we could take the time to just dunk on a little bit, you know? Last couple of weeks, we've had plenty of jabronis making the rounds in the world of comic book Twitter, in our comment sections, and, you know, the folks at home seem to like it when we just take them to task a little bit. So I think I just have to call this one out. So there was a tweet this week from a Travis B. Hill, right? Who
this one.
he quote tweeted another writer who had said, "I want to write a Batman comic that's clearly a thinly disguised Entourage spec script," right? Okay. So he quote tweets this and says, "I want to write a Batman comic where Bruce Wayne goes to therapy and then uses all his riches to invest in better city infrastructure and public safety in Gotham and forces a minimum wage across the entire DC universe." So that got people a little they were chatting. They were chatting this week about that.
Is that a Bernie Sanders spec script? Like,
yeah, and I mean, you know, that sounds like a great spec script for the Bernie Sanders comic, but for Batman, I don't know. What do you think about that pitch?
Burn Man.
So here's the thing.
Who's this Robin, Cale?
What he wrote down, fantastic. Minimum wage, yes. Like trust me, I'm like the most radical Democratic socialist that I can.
Trust him, he says.
Trust me. But I don't want to read that.
I like my favorite reaction to this news actually came from friend of the show Matt Murphy, where he just started tweeting different like summaries of like slice of life manga, you know? And it's just like you can just read something else if you want that, you know?
Yeah.
There are other books.
Like I'm like one step away from saying like I don't want these politics in my comics, but like I just want a little bit of escapism in a Batman book. Not to say that this political book cannot exist, but first of all, Bruce Wayne's a dick. He wouldn't do any of this.
No, he's an insane fascist.
First of all, that is wholly untrue.
I maintain Bruce Wayne is a total asshole who is super selfish. But
so
he does like
you've never read a Batman comic.
Oh no, my favorite Batman is Dick Grayson. So
I see. Yeah.
That's where I lie on the spectrum there.
I'm just saying, Batman uses his mass wealth to just, beat the shit out of poor people.
Yeah, if it's not a nice, a sharp gauntlet slicing a poor person's face who's just trying to like make do with the horrible situation that is Gotham City, it's not a Batman book. I'm sorry.
All I'm saying is, Cale, I played Arkham Knight where they gave you that Batmobile, and I was just running people over left and right. Batman's a fucking murderer.
If you give the guy a tank, of course a couple of people are going to get run over. That's
no
not
guns
his
though.
fault.
No guns. No guns.
Didn't that tank have rockets?
It did.
Rockets are not guns.
If you blow up cars that have people inside, it's not the same as shooting them.
I like to think though, like, would that work as a book that wasn't a Batman book? Like, could it work as like, I don't know, some kind of like political, like, would comics be a good medium for a story like that? For like
political, like, what's the word I'm looking, like fan fiction? Like, what if the world had
I guess I was thinking more of like, I mean, he really just pitched whatchamacallit, like points for someone to get elected. Like this is more like an election pitch really than an actual story pitch. That there was no story actually pitched. But I wonder if something like that could work in a comic book. Wouldn't work in Batman. No, Batman's an asshole. Sorry.
Well, he's not an asshole, but it definitely wouldn't. It definitely wouldn't fly in a Big Two comic for sure.
No.
As maybe, and this is a hard maybe. If there was like a quote unquote redemption arc at the end where he goes, "Oh shit, people do need Batman." That's when that would work.
I do need to be punching poor people.
He's like, damn, even with the minimum wage, there's still crime.
I just changed all the wage for all the Gotham Burger employees, but now I don't know. And what if like the second volume of Nemesis can tackle this?
I don't know. It's funny because you asked the question of like, could this actually work? And I think like for people like on our side of the political spectrum, Tyler, I feel like it would just be like it's like, oh yeah, like where's the conflict in this story? This is all the right decisions. Everything worked out.
Yeah.
But I feel like for, maybe for like a right winger, this could be like a great horror story, Oh no, the independent maverick billionaire Bruce Wayne has become.
Wait, who would be the villain in this? Would there be like, it's just like the main villain's name is Filibuster?
The therapist, maybe.
Yeah.
The therapist who makes him realize he needs to get his shit together.
Although I feel like Tom King could have written a good like one-shot Bruce Wayne therapy book. Like I'm okay with the idea of a Bruce Wayne therapy book.
I'd read that. Sure. Yeah.
Just how exciting can it be how exciting can the legislature of reform be on the paper?
I will say though, I think anything beyond it being a one shot is like not something I would be at all interested in.
12 issue maxi.
The idea of like, yes, what if Batman went to therapy? It's like, well, the entire core of Batman as a character is that he experienced trauma as a child and then never dealt with it really. So, I mean, I feel like what we would be doing is just like, okay, what if we shot Superman in the head with a kryptonite bullet? Well, the stories would end.
It should just be like multiple pages of saying, you should go to therapy for
yeah.
And then it's like, hey, here's a BetterHelp ad in there, and just
this issue of Batman brought to you by BetterHelp.com.
Yeah, there you go. Comes free with a subscription.
Oh my God! All right, well, that's enough of that for now. Oh, you got something, Cale?
I like that you started that conversation by saying you were gonna dunk on it, but at the end you kind of agreed with it.
No, we were just like we ended up just, well, how do we make this script work? That's fine. There'll be plenty of opportunities to dunk on people later, I'm sure. So we got some listener comments I wanted to read here. Everybody over on the YouTube channel has been really awesome coming in with these comments every week. Really appreciate hearing from y'all. So please write in to the show, either by hitting us up over on YouTube. You can write to us at thecomicspals@gmail.com. Get us on Twitter, wherever you get us, the Discord. We're happy to read your thoughts on the air. So, this one came from Ken Byrne over on episode 248, where we had Sal from Comic Pop on for an interview. And Ken wrote in and said, sorry I missed the live version. I love Comic Pop. Well, don't worry. The show wasn't live, so you nailed it. You caught it day one. Good for you, Ken. Thanks for checking it out. Christopher Wolf also wrote in on that episode and said, you know what is not alienating? Comic Pop interviews. Did you guys talk about stuff being alienating on that episode?
I don't think so.
You're the wrong person to ask, huh, Cale?
I've watched it. I don't think so.
And I listened back to it. I don't recall anything being alienating. But
you like the sound of your own voice, don't you? Because I listen to that podcast I've been on, and I enjoy my own voice. So
I like the sound of my own voice.
You just said you listened to it and watched it.
No,
so.
I do it for the show.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
I don't.
So not narcissism like me. Okay.
No,
cool.
I don't like the sound of my own voice.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, no. Cale listens back to here, and he's like, "Oh God, I suck. I gotta get better." You know,
it's like audio self-flagellation.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The weird thing is, I never do. Or I have to go back and refresh myself on all my former takes. Oh yeah,
I did say that.
I do think this. No, what it was we talked for a long time about YouTube and the bullshit that YouTube puts creators through with the algorithm and everything. And at some point we had to cross over into comic books. That's what was alienating. Got it.
Okay. Well, this next one comes from Garrett Harshman over on that same episode and said, screw a DC Marvel crossover. This is the crossover event I've been waiting for. We appreciate that, Garrett. Thanks for writing in. Thanks for listening. And then we got another comment. This one comes from Grayson Red, same episode, who said, crossover of the year. People are loving this crossover.
Suck it, Donny Cates.
Yeah. Psh, never. Crossover by Image Comics. This is the real crossover.
No way.
So this next one comes from Gareth Fitzgerald over on our Moon Knight #1 review, which was Tyler's debut as a regular host here on the channel. So go check that out. Gareth wrote in and said, "Hi Pete, yes, as a newbie when it comes to Moon Knight and given some of my other faves have been canceled lately, I'll be checking out more of this series. Cheers." So that was in response. We had a little back and forth about the first issue of Moon Knight. They were into Moon Knight #1. Tyler, I know you're a Moon Knight fan, right? You were really looking forward to that new series.
Yeah. So it's cool seeing somebody jump on the bandwagon there.
Yeah.
The more people read Moon Knight, the more Moon Knight I get. So
it's beautiful, and I know
perfectly cool with it.
I know Gareth did subscribe and has checked out some other stuff. So thank you so much, Gareth. Hope you're listening now. Appreciate the comment, and we'll see you on Moon Knight #2. All right, so then our last one this week comes from our Spawn 320 review, which just came out last Wednesday. And this one comes from Kilgore Trout, regular writer into the show, who wrote in and said, I buy Spawn every month, but I honestly wish Todd wasn't the writer. Sorry, Todd. Not sorry, Todd.
Yeah. That's why I don't read it.
Art, incredible.
Agreed. Yeah.
Absolutely phenomenal art. But Todd McFarlane has not changed the way he writes in 40
not at
years.
all. Yeah, I literally read like one of the previous big Spawn event book or whatever a couple years back, and then I read this Spawn Universe #1, and I was like, this is the same thing.
Yep.
Yeah,
it's the same thing.
Yep.
That was kind of the thing that I think hit me when I read it, even when I was like a teenager and was like into edgelord shit and was like, I want to read like these weird edgelord comics. And I read like a volume of Spawn and was like, that was pretty good. And then I read another volume and I was like, okay, that's Spawn. I got it. But I shouldn't talk about Spawn because after our Spawn universe, I just put my foot right in my mouth, showed my cards of how little I know about Spawn. So I'm just gonna shut up about Spawn and move on. So let's jump into the Pals Pulls. So Tyler this week has Suicide Squad Get Joker #1.
Yeah, so I believe it's a Black Label book, if I'm right here. Hold on, let me just do some on the fly.
You said that was
research.
Azzarello, right? Surely that's a Black Label.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, so it's Azzarello. Yeah, it's Black Label. Azzarello and Alex Maleev with Matt Hollingsworth as well. So that's
great creative team.
Pretty good creative team. And I guess this is the one that's going to tie into, not tie in, but like help ride the wave of the success of the movie.
Sure.
And it's nice to see it kind of Azzarello kind of do like this Black Label thing again. And judging by the cover, it looks like Wild Dog might be on this team. And Wild Dog, he's a dude with the hockey mask and a hockey. He's what's the Ninja Turtles guy?
Casey Jones.
Similar, but like in the DC universe. He was in the in like at least a season ago. He was a character on Arrow or 2 seasons ago. Time doesn't exist anymore. So
I know exactly what you're talking about. Yep.
Yeah. So another like real D-list character. I will read. I've been reading Suicide Squad, I would say spiritually since Secret 6, even though that wasn't a Suicide Squad book. I feel like it was a spiritual successor to it. And I'm just a sucker for villain team books where anyone could be expendable, really. So yeah, throw in Azzarello and Maleev, and I'm in.
All right. You also chose Sinister War #2.
Yeah. I guess this tracks with what I just said. It's more villains just teaming up. And so I thought this would just be like, oh, Sinister Six is back, but it turns out it's about 5 different iterations of the Sinister Six.
It sure is.
It's a lot. But I believe Bagley is doing it.
Yeah, he is.
And I'll. It doesn't matter what kind of Spider-Man book. If it's Bagley, I've learned to like just love Bagley doing Spider-Man. And I think the last like issue 1 was like 4 different splash pages. That was like a Where's Waldo fest. So
I really liked the first issue. Like I wasn't expecting a ton, just because I think, you know, the Spencer ASM run, like I tried to get into it at the top, and I just
hit or miss.
I just wasn't super into it. But I don't know. When we reviewed issue 1, I remember I think it was Cale who had said like it just had the flavor of like a classic Spider-Man book. Like it felt very, you know, of that tone and that vibe. And it caught me by surprise how much I enjoyed it. So I'm looking forward to #2 as well.
Kind of like just turn your brain off a bit.
Yeah.
So,
and just watch, like, I don't know. There's some good humor beats, like getting to see your favorite Spider-Man villains, and then also some of the D and E listers.
Yeah, like Superior Foes is in this. Yeah.
It's fun. All right. So Cale, you had Nice House #3.
Yeah, that book's fucking great.
Sure is.
DC horror book. James Tynion.
You can look up the rest of the creative team.
I sure should have.
We reviewed issues #1 and 2. So if you haven't checked out Nice House, definitely go check out our reviews of them. We've been really hot on it.
Artist is Alvaro Martinez Bueno.
Perfect.
And Jordi Belair.
Yeah,
Jordi Belair on colors.
2 was harder to follow after the gap from 1. So I'm hoping 3 will give us a little bit easier of a time. I'm still along for the ride. Either way.
Yeah. I think it hit the pace I think a lot of really good books do, where like if you have a really strong issue #1, issue #2 is often where you like slow things down and start explaining things and like filling in some of the blanks, and I kind of feel like that's what we did with issue 2. Here's hoping.
Well, and issue 1 had so much character identification to go by. And issue 2 didn't quite keep that up.
Yeah, the fact that like every character has a nickname and a name is like a little hard to follow.
And a symbol.
Yeah. But I think that's a thing we'll get used to as we go on with it. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that one too.
Yeah, me too. Tinian's been killing it lately. So
he's on a hot streak right now.
Eisner winner now. I believe he won an Eisner, yeah. Best writer.
Good for him. Well deserved. And then you also had the Swamp Thing at #6.
Yeah, so this seems like it'll be sort of the beginning of the second arc for this season of the Swamp Thing with Ron V and Mike Perkins. My guess with the way things have gone is 1 through 4 were kind of one arc, sort of the introductory arc, and then we got issue 5 with your obligatory Constantine appearance, and now we'll continue on to the next thing. I'm really looking forward to what Rob V's got.
Me too. I really love this book. I think 5 was the one that I think I was probably the least into. It was like a very self-contained story, and it wasn't bad by any stretch of the imagination. But it felt like it slowed things down a little bit. I'm definitely eager to see like if 6 is kind of like setting up threads for the second half of this story, you know. But either way, this has been one of my favorite books of the year by a pretty wide margin. So I'm very excited for number 6. How about you, Tyler? You reading this?
I am. I'm an issue behind though, but
Okay.
I am reading it. Yeah, I'm enjoying it. I like it for what it is. I like Mike Perkins. I think there's a real moodiness that it brings to the art. So
For sure.
and Round B, I mean, he's doing the Justice League Dark backups, I believe, as well in Justice League, which is 10 times better than the actual book. So yeah, I'm cool with him playing around with that the mystical part of the DC universe.
For sure. Yeah. Yeah, Ram V, really, really exciting creator. We had Ram on the show. I wish Marco was here to pull up what episode it was, because that's what he always does when I bring stuff up. But go check out the interview we had with Ram. They were great guests, and he was like a super, super, super interesting person to interview. Very insightful. So I already called out. I'm into like almost all the books that are on this list so far today, but I also wanted to call out the Me You Love in the Dark #1 by Scotty Young and Jorge Corona. That's a new book from Image. We will have a review for it on Wednesday. So if you're not aware, we do Image comic reviews day and date every Wednesday. So go check that out, and you can hear our thoughts about that book over there. All right, so let's jump into the news. It's a lot of news this week. A lot of news, some of which, it's all pretty big news. Some of it is big in kind of dumb ways, and some of it is big in really, really not fun ways. So we're going to run the whole gamut today. But let's just jump into it with, I think, probably one of the stories that most people have seen this week because it was making some headlines, is Scarlett Johansson is suing Disney over the release of Black Widow. So, this is, if you're not kind of familiar with the context, right, this has been kind of an ongoing discussion in the world of Hollywood, right, as, theaters have been closed, as they're gradually opening back up, as we've kind of had these hybrid releases or these releases at home. There's been quite a bit of backlash from the creatives in Hollywood, from actors, directors, over their films being released in ways that, they didn't contractually agree to necessarily. An example that I know we've talked about a few times on this show, right, is that, there's a rumor that Patty Jenkins and Gal Gadot were allegedly paid off to not speak negatively about the fact that Wonder Woman 1984 was going to be put out digitally, because if you'll recall, Patty Jenkins had said that will not happen. It will come out in theaters. Like, that is never going to be the case. And then, of course, it was. So there's been some kind of conversation around it there. Like, Christopher Nolan, who works with WB, publicly trashed HBO Max when they announced that they were going to be doing this. So, it's not exactly a news story, but Scarlett Johansson kind of throwing her hat in the ring here. I think it's something that it has obviously brought a lot of attention to the issue, right? So it's been reported that there are a lot of other directors, creatives, actors who are frustrated and who have been kind of waiting for the wave of this action to begin, that Disney and WB have more or less like violated their contracts, right, by releasing these films excuse me, by releasing these films in ways that cut actors out of money that is owed to them based on the box office performance, right? So a star of Scarlett Johansson's caliber, right, gets a percentage of what is earned at the box office, right? And you can imagine for her, right, where this is the last film that she's playing as the character. This is her last swing at the MCU pinata, you know, to make
Definitely a last after this lawsuit.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
You can imagine, right? Like why she and her agents, who are tied up in this deal that is supposed to see her make a ton of money, maybe the only reason she came back and played the character again, and then for it to have this happen, right? It's a clearly a violation of their contract. And she's not the only one. Gerard Butler is also suing the producers of Olympus Has Fallen for a similar issue. So you can see that this is, you know, AMC has publicly like attacked Disney over this. Like they're certainly not.
Yeah, the dominoes are falling. It sounds like. I think Emily Blunt and John Krasinski are also in talks because of Quiet Place 2.
That makes sense.
Emma Stone as well for Cruella.
Yeah. Oh, okay, yeah. I hadn't heard about that one, but that makes sense. So you know, that kind of sets the table, right, for what's going on. I wanted to kind of open the floor, I guess, like, how do you feel that this news and this kind of wave of action could impact the future of multi-platform film releases? You know, like, we talked about this very recently, and Marco has been very, very vocal about the fact that, like, that's his preferred way to watch a movie. He only wants to see a very, you know, small number of movies at an actual theater, but he'd much rather watch them at home and just enjoy them that way. And I think, you know, obviously with everything going on in the world and there being a hesitancy for people to get back to the theaters, especially as, you know, the Delta variant is now kind of making some of those things more dangerous. You know, I don't think that Disney or WB wants to see those hybrid releases go away, but it seems like the people who make movies do.
I don't think they're going away. I just think that this is only really going to affect these movies. And maybe a couple other ones coming up soon. Going forward, this will be written into contracts. Yeah, for sure. I don't think it's going away at all. You know, it's just easier. It's more accessible for a lot of people. And it also sells their streaming services, which is a better source of steady revenue. Yeah, coming in, and then, you know, maybe just a summer of blockbusters, you know.
Yeah, especially when you look at HBO Max, right, which was really struggling, and then saw a pretty big uptick after they made that announcement.
Yeah, and as much as I love to, you know, debate of how all these rich millionaires gonna still keep making millions of dollars, just real relatable issues. I can see how I would be pissed off, you know.
Yeah, I mean. Yeah. You know, I'm with you, Tyler. Where that's concerned, right? Like, obviously, Scarlett Johansson is one of the.
She'll be okay.
Yeah, she's one of the wealthiest people in Hollywood. Like, she's, you know, this isn't gonna break the bank for her or anything like that. However, I have seen a lot of kind of that commentary, and it does bother me because people are like, "Oh yeah, millionaire Scarlett Johansson, like this is really gonna hurt her," and it's like, so what? You're stumping for Disney in this argument, like. The $1 billion corporation that could have easily renegotiated the contract. Like, they're still the asshole, you know, like.
Was your first day on the internet or?
No, I know. It's just, you know.
but also, like, because of COVID, like, could you have even thought of this as a thing to put into a contract? Like, and maybe that's where it's a bit of taking advantage of the contract. Like, oh, it's not in here. We never even thought about this. Let's just slide something in. Like, I don't even know, like, if HBO Max was even an idea back when Wonder Woman 1984 was even like started production. Developed. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
So how do you write something in that didn't exist in the first place? You know, so.
Yeah, I think that's definitely a good point that, like, with COVID, it definitely disrupted, you know, the normal way that films are released and everything like that. But I also think that, like, Disney delayed this movie how many times?
Yeah.
You know, if they had decided that this was what they wanted to do, why not renegotiate? Why not just open that dialogue to maintain a positive relationship with this person that you've worked with for 10 years?
I mean, it looked like for a while that they were waiting to just do a solo theatrical release for this movie.
Right.
Mm-hmm. And I think stuff with, like, I guess Raya and the Last Dragon would have been the first premiere access Disney Plus film. And I guess that doing well, I think maybe a month later we got, all right, Jungle Cruise and Black Widow are also going to be doing in the summer.
I think I think the thing that that particularly I found frustrating, which again, like I think in this situation, like I'm already kind of like, yeah, like Disney did the wrong thing, right? Like they breached a contract and like they shouldn't have done that. But then they also made a public statement that I thought was like very, very, I don't know, like it really rubbed me the wrong way. I'm going to read from it real quick. But basically they said that her whole lawsuit was, was nonsense. They said there's no merit whatsoever to this filing. The lawsuit is especially sad and distressing in its callous disregard for the horrific and prolonged global effects of the COVID-19 pandemic. Disney has fully complied with Ms. Johansson's contract, and furthermore, the release of Black Widow on Disney Plus with Premier Access has significantly enhanced her ability to earn additional compensation on top of the $20 million she has received to date. So,
that additional compensation thing's kind of bullshit.
Fuck that.
It's they're cutting into each other.
Yeah,
it's not like I'm not going to go to the theaters and buy it on Premier Access.
Right.
I'm not doing both.
Like that's total bullshit. It's not an opportunity for additional compensation. It's an alternative form of compensation, and that's the problem because the margins on that are not as good. I when I watched Black Widow, I paid $30 to do it, and I spent less than I would have if I had gone to the movies. So that's less money in her pocket. And if I had my friends over to watch it, then instead of each of us buying a ticket, it's $30 for 5 people to watch it, or whatever, right? Yeah. Like that's it's not the same. They're not analogous, and to assert that they are is bullshit, frankly. Mm-hmm. And then I think on top of it, to use COVID as a defense, to be like
dangling that over. Yeah.
This lawsuit is especially sad and distressing in its callous disregard for the horrific and prolonged effects of the global COVID-19 pandemic. Like, are you fucking kidding me, Disney? Like, get that? Like, that is so. Like, you're trying to weaponize a global pandemic to get out of legal trouble in which you are totally at fault.
Yeah. Sorry, we were trying to save lives,
Trying is a pretty funny way to put that. I don't know. That's been their whole jam.
Yeah. One thing I think they neglect, obviously they would neglect to mention it in their press release, but piracy, because it is digital.
It's way easier to pirate on day one and not pay for it, which is also going to eat into the fucking profits.
And it eats into all profits at that point.
And also, I think just the icing on the cake is to say that to throw out what she was paid is extremely petty.
Yeah.
To be like, oh, well, we already paid her $20 million. It's like, yeah, well, that's what the contract said. That's what you agreed to pay her. And then she was also supposed to get a cut of the box office money. That's the whole fucking problem.
Is that information not out there, though?
I mean, it might be, but I think saying it in the same statement where you call her lawsuit callous and all, it feels like you're like, oh, millionaire Scarlett Johansson needs more money, and it's like, you're fucking Disney. You don't get to play that card, Disney. That's not cool. Yeah, I don't know. There's one other question I wanted to throw out here that Sean put in the notes that I thought was an interesting question. He said, "What must it have been like for Scarlett to do promo work on this film, knowing she might sue them after its release?"
It's called acting.
Yeah, right. I was damn, she's a great actress.
Yeah, great role, great role.
The best role I've ever taken, pretending to like Disney.
But then, you have someone like Florence Pugh is probably in the same situation. But does she then do the same thing when she has roles coming up?
When she's in a contract.
Yeah, it's
she's
different
doing
for her.
Yeah, I know. So
I don't think Scarlett does this if it's not her last at bat.
Agreed.
At the MCU, if there was another Black Widow movie that was going to come later, I think she would have. Eating shit on this one for the chance of the payday later, right?
I know Scarlett was set to executive produce the Tower of Terror movie for Disney too. So I wonder if this is kind of like saying fuck that,
I wonder. Yeah. I mean, she's like worked with them for a long time. Like it always seemed like they had a fairly positive relationship. But I also, you made the point, Tyler, right? Like if I was working with a company for 10 years and then they tried to fuck me out of money and then make me look like the bad guy, like I probably wouldn't want to work with them anymore either.
Not letting this dude fuck on me. I get you.
Especially because it's like, like we said, right? Like she's Scarlett Johansson. Like she's one of the few bona fide movie stars in the world. She could get work with other studios, or if she doesn't ever want to work again a day in her life, that's also probably a pretty good option for her.
Yeah. Wes Anderson will come calling,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she could just do like whatever. Oh, yeah, cool. Like I'm interested in this script. I'll work on that, right? Like she's made her money. She's been playing Black Widow for 10 years. Like,
Yep.
So, yeah, I mean, we'll see where the story goes. I'm definitely interested to see what where the chips fall and what this is going to mean for other similar deals and like how many lawsuits of this type we'll see come in the aftermath of this. But, that's kind of the long and short of it for now. So,
Fuck Disney.
yeah. All right. So, moving into the next story, Scott Snyder has signed a very, very interesting deal with Comixology. So basically, he is going to be teaming with a number of other pretty major creators. Where
these are like, yeah.
Yeah, like I'll read some of the names. So we've got Rafael Albuquerque, Greg Capullo, Francesco Francavilla, Jamal Eagle,
I believe. Yeah.
Jock Lotte, Francis Manapal, and Dan Panasian. Sorry to anyone whose name I butchered. This is the part of the show where I say people's names wrong.
I also love Jock Lotte. That's a good one.
Jock Lotte. Is that what, did I say it wrong?
You sure did.
Oh, okay. Cool.
Those are two separate people.
Yeah.
No,
I
think
Jacques Lotte is a famous French acrobat.
Okay.
Helped lay the foundations for European wrestling.
Love it.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, so I'm reading a bit from the Games Radar piece. So Scott Snyder has signed what could be an 8-book deal with Amazon subsidiary Comixology and Dark Horse Books. The deal covers 7 upcoming comic book series and 1 illustrated prose book Snyder has written with his recently launched production company, Best Jacket Press. I really like that name, Best Jacket.
They better have good book jackets on those books. Or
yeah,
else
right.
It's all bullshit. So,
do you think that's what it? I think it's like a jacket, like a real jacket. I can't imagine it's book jackets.
You think it's just he's real proud of his jacket collection?
Yeah.
Okay.
you think
fair
the
enough.
book will be like size enough so it could fit in a jacket pocket?
That's it.
Or I'm thinking too big brain. I think.
I don't know
It
though.
might be. But does the book wear a sports coat?
I think that's the real question here. Out of all this whole article we're talking about, that is the question.
Yeah.
I love the idea that they are like pocket sized, so that like Tyler could start being like those weird Republicans who will like carry around a copy of the Constitution. I love the Constitution. So we've got announcements of each of the books and some kind of like quick descriptions of each of them. We don't necessarily have to go through all of them, but there are definitely some interesting things here. Like we said, he's teaming up with some real like A-tier talent. So the first one is called We Have Demons. This is him working with Greg Capullo. This has got Jonathan Glapion on inks, and it was compared, or he compares it to Spawn meets Batman meets Metal.
Oh, nope, I'm out.
Yep. Same.
The quote, out of control horror series follows a teenage kid who discovers a clandestine between good and evil involving secret societies and monsters. I think there's a missing word there, but yeah. Okay, so this is Dark Knight's death metal.
You ride that metal train, I'm out.
This is literally the only one I'm actually not interested in.
Which sucks because Capullo's fantastic. It's just
I kind of feel like I've seen Capullo. Not that.
Yeah, no,
obviously not that he's not fantastic. It's just I kind of feel like between Spawn, the various metal album covers he's done, and Batman, I'm good. I get it.
I get it.
He just named Capullo's books.
Oeuvre.
Yeah, exactly.
So this next one is Barnstormers. This one has Lula Lote. How do you say it?
Lula Lote.
Lula Lote.
Tula Lote. Tula Lote.
Tula Lote.
So yeah, this one is probably one I'm most excited for, honestly.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's a World War I period piece romance book with Tula Lote on art. Like it could have Snyder nowhere in this, and I would be interested in it.
Yeah, I'm with you.
The thing, it
looks great.
A high flying adventure, and the cover has 2 World War I biplanes on it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm in.
That's got Porco Rosso written all over it. That's my jam.
Sure.
Garth Ennis is fuming right now, though.
Yeah, absolutely.
This is my thing. So this next one is Book of Evil, and this has Jock on it. Jock Tululi Lalo, whatever I said before. So this is the prose book. And it's described as a Stephen King-esque coming-of-age story following 4 adolescents living in a near future where most of humanity are born psychopaths.
Ooh, I didn't realize this was prose. That does.
Where's the art come in?
If you illustrated,
if you look at the sample, it has illustrations, but it's not.
Oh, gotcha.
Comic pages, really.
Oh, yeah. Okay, all right. I'm fucking into this.
It's different.
Yeah, this looks cool. Shit.
Yeah, it looks pretty neat. So then we got a Canary, which is this one's Dan
Panosian.
There you go. Yep.
Okay, there we go. And it's described as a late 19th century Western, which has my attention.
Yep.
Love a good Western. And it's a horror series where a mine collapses onto itself, and it's somehow tied into a dark substance found 666 feet, exactly 666 feet underground.
Hell yeah, dude.
Hell
yeah.
That sounds great.
Dan Panosian is fantastic. I don't remember anything with Scott Snyder. Like this all seems to be Scott Snyder and friends.
Yeah.
But I don't remember Panosian doing anything with Snyder, which I'm fine with because I love Panosian. So
surely he's done something.
Probably. Maybe like an issue of All-Star Batman that I forgot about or something.
American Vampire, maybe.
That would fit.
The one page they show looks so good. The color work is really impressive.
Oh yeah, baby.
I'm into it. Then we got a look at Clear.
This is what I'm excited about.
This is with Francis Manapul.
Yeah, fucking is.
Which they worked together on Justice League No Justice. And this is a sci-fi mystery set in a strange future where everyone has a constant neurological internet connection.
Oh.
Which sounds fucking awful, but
the next line is sort of the end of the description. It says, "As you can imagine, there'd be problems."
Yes.
Francis Manapul is easily one of my favorite artists.
Oh yeah,
I've been hot on him since Flash from the New 52, and I can never get enough.
It looks really cool. It's very striking. The colors are very, very dynamic looking too. It's got like almost like a like there's the shot on the one page of the dude on the bike, and it's like just like a white outline.
Yeah,
it's so fucking cool. Like it's very dynamic. It's got a very I know that specifically reminds me of like Tron. You know, like it looks like the light cycle. I like how that's being used to like show movement. So we've almost made it through all these, so we're just gonna go through them. This one's the next one's called Duck and Cover. This is the team behind American Vampire. So apparently it wasn't the other.
That book's been going a long time though.
Okay,
it's mostly been Albuquerque, but I think there were I think there've been one shots.
Okay,
and, miniseries.
Yeah. So this is as Tyler said, Raphael Albuquerque is on this one. This is they said it's once again delving into history and America. It's a manga influenced series, which is a throwback to the post-apocalypse story set in 1955 America. So
manga influenced.
Look at it, like the character on the front cover looks like Archie, and then when you go to the second page, there's a kid who looks like Jughead. Like it definitely looks like it's like a 1955 story. The bomb drops and then everybody's surviving the apocalypse. So like I would imagine it's gonna have some like pretty heavy like Fallout vibes maybe, but we'll see.
Archie Fallout vibes. Okay,
right? It's like that sounds kind of great.
Yeah.
And then we have Dudley Datson and the Forever Machine, which looks like an all ages book. And yeah, it says it's diving in headlong into the young adult section with this new series with artists Jamal Igle and Juan Castro. It says it's about a boy, his dog, and a time machine.
This looks like it has some heavy Kirby vibes. Like I'm getting like Commandi from this a bit. So.
Or like
Forever People.
Old like Flash Gordon.
Yeah.
Something that I think is interesting. If you look at the second page, they have character descriptions for everybody. And the dog says it's Daedalus, and it says current form Belgian Manil, which I'm guessing is the breed of dog, even though it looks like a German Shepherd. But then it says abilities classified, and then it says and Chemical Society dog tag, of course. So first thing. What's
the dog doing?
It says current form, so I'm pretty sure this is not a dog and that it can shapeshift.
This is a Rocky and what's it? It's a Rocky and Bullwinkle pastiche. There's I have to look this up. There's a
I should know this.
There's a cartoon in the Rocky and Bullwinkle.
Oh shoot!
Like in that pack of cartoons.
Yeah, a real smart talking dog.
Mr. Peabody, and
Peabody and Mr. Sherman. That's it. Yeah.
One. Yep, that's what it is. Definitely.
So it's Peabody and Mr. Sherman done by Kirby in a way.
Yeah.
Okay.
Also, the main kid Dudley looks like he dresses like it's the 90s, and I appreciate that. Like he's got like a high top kind of look, like a little bit. And I like that the one description they have is pockets filled with useful things and funky buttons on vest. Yeah, I don't know. This book could be fun. Okay, so we got Night of the Ghoul, which this one is Francesco Francavilla on this one as well.
Hey, have you ever heard people pronounce anything?
Francesco
Francavilla.
Got it. That one's Italian. I should be able to do that.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Grief.
Cale, you know this is like your thing though, right? Like you say everyone's names wrong. God forbid I am getting put on the spot. I don't know.
This
Who's
is why
grown out of it? What happened?
Oh, you've grown out of it. You just avoid saying people's names now. Go ahead.
Yeah,
Tyler.
I do. I've grown out of it.
Yeah.
I can. If
Just 'cause I've gotten
next
around
time you get it, next time you get something weird, I'll butcher it.
Thanks, buddy. Thanks,
Yeah,
buddy.
let me know. I'll jump on the grenade.
So this one has been teased in the past at some conventions and stuff like that, apparently. But they describe this as their halcyonic Hollywood horror story about a lost film whose reels are said to be haunted.
Hell
Ooh.
yeah.
It's a fun idea.
Yep.
Yeah.
Definitely a fun idea. The color on this, the color work on this
Francavilla
looks fucking insane.
Top notch. Yeah.
real good stuff.
So, I think this is definitely interesting, right? Like we've expressed interest in some or most of these series. I think it's fair to say. Several of these books are due out in October of this year, with more details to come. And yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think this is really interesting. Like, obviously, this could have some pretty serious implications on, what Comixology looks like. It's going to be interesting for Dark Horse, too, because I mentioned at the top, Dark Horse is also involved in this deal. They're playing the role of publishing the print editions. Some as either like full original graphic novels. Some will be serialized as issues.
Interesting.
Yeah. So, I mean, like, this is pretty interesting, right? Like, Comixology obviously is, a force in the comics industry. It's the place for digital comics, more or less.
It's the diamond of the digital market,
right?
Essentially.
And when Comixology originals were first revealed, we talked a lot about how that could really be a pretty big deal for them, but it has never quite felt like it mattered as much as it could. Absolutely no disrespect to any of the books that are Comixology originals, but I don't think a lot of them have been like breakout hits or have been the kind of book that like get the press that something like Scott Snyder signing an exclusive deal does. You know?
That is probably true. Yeah, like Chip Zdarsky's got a couple now, and they're good. But this is absolutely huge. You're right, and I think this is a great move by, I mean, unfortunately Amazon, but
Right.
to really bolster their service.
Yeah, I mean, the sales of this will help build the next dick-shaped rocket. So
Yeah.
fantastic.
There was some commentary from Scott that I thought was pretty interesting. He says, this deal allows me the freedom to explore the kind of storytelling I've wanted to try for a long time while supporting my need to try something that's not totally comfortable for me. And he had talked last year to Newsarama in 2020, saying that Best Jacket Press was about him entering a new phase of his career with creator-owned work after like 10 years of exclusivity with DC. So couple other interesting little tidbits is Will Dennis, who worked at DC and Vertigo, is going to be the editor on all 8 books, and he already works with Snyder on Undiscovered Country, Witches, and Nocterra, and then another book that Snyder's working on called Chain. So, I mean, Snyder's working on a ton of books right now. Like,
and dude is getting his friend's money too, so like I can't hate that.
No, so. I mean, it's kind of fucking cool. Like, he's got like 12,
even his editor friend,
like he's got 12, 13 books out right now that, to varying degrees, are successful or getting some attention. Getting to work with exactly who he wants to work with, right? Getting to put over other creatives that he likes working with that maybe don't have the same star power as he does. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, and my favorite part of all this means that there's no more DC event books by him.
That is very true.
So, yeah.
My question is, how do you guys feel about this, right? Like, obviously, this is going to make it where I think the ability for Scott Snyder to work on DC Comics is going to be severely limited, if not impossible, right, with all these books. How do you feel about that? Like, are you excited by the idea of him not working at DC? Are you excited by the idea of picking up his books again because he'll be doing something creator-owned, maybe something a little bit more fresh?
I could care less. I think he's told his stories at DC.
Yeah.
10 years is a long time.
Yeah, it's like when Bendis was on his last legs at Marvel. Like nothing was really good by Bendis at that point. Guy kind of just felt creatively spent in that regard.
Sure.
And Snyder just finished this big death metal, heavy metal. What was it fucking called at this point? I don't know which metal it was. Dark metal?
It was I think it was heavy metal and then death metal, right?
Some metal. And so that's a good way to go out, with a bang. And I'm reading Undiscovered Country and really enjoying it. Like I enjoy Scott Snyder as a writer most of the time. Honestly, preferably on his creator-owned stuff. Like I do like Witches and stuff like that. So I'm okay with this. And like literally every one of the artists that he got on these books are artists that I would go to, even if I didn't know who the writer was. So yeah, smart move. So even if you don't like Scott Snyder, like the art alone is like a good draw in and of itself. Sure.
But, and I also think each of these is different enough that surely there's something there for just about everybody. He's even got a YA title in there. Like, I think, even though he's not on Batman, he can still do a ton. Mm-hmm. And he clearly is. And I think this will be an incredible, like, writer showcase.
Sure.
This is the dream.
It is. Yeah.
And I think it's interesting that you made that point there, Cale, right? Where like I feel like with Undiscovered Country, right? We saw that book sold really well when it came out, and like I think Scott's a creator at a point in his career where he doesn't really need to write Batman anymore. Yeah, like he's a name.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think it makes sense for him to try to take this opportunity and move on and do something new and like you said, move on to the next phase of his career and, focus on his own stuff, his own properties. So something that I wanted to try to touch on here was So I think we all agree that this is like a cool announcement. It's an interesting announcement. It's a good one for Scott and for Comixology and Dark Horse, I think. But how do we feel about like this, like Scott being the choice? You know, like do you think that like this offer should have been extended to like somebody else? You know,
You mean a non-white male?
yeah, I mean something that that Sean put in the notes here, right? Is like, it was just at Comic-Con at home where Dark Horse had announced that they're no longer just, straight white boy comics anymore. And then we have this announcement of we're putting out all of these books by, one of the poster childs of straight white boy comic creators.
Well, when the Amazon money comes knocking,
I still don't quite get what that announcement was.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's them trying to,
But was there anything attached? Like,
yeah, in a vacuum, it's a weird statement.
That's all I've seen is,
like-
Dark Horse is declaring they're not for straight white boys.
Okay.
So I think so. To answer your question, like I think it's something Sean always talks about is like, Scott has the stories and the people he's bringing along with him are what will help make this diverse.
Sure.
How many, he's got Tula Ote's on there, Francis Manipal.
Jamal Eichel.
Yep. It's a diverse crowd.
And there's an effort, at least a perceived effort. And if this is, if the Comixology Originals has to break into comics in a big way, do the old comic book thing and pick the old straight white dude.
Yeah.
I mean, if that's what breaks the door down and like more of these things can happen with different, creators and different, artists and stuff, and then so be it. Would it have been nice? Yes.
And luckily enough, like this straight white guy is like, he is a champion for that kind of stuff. He really goes the distance and tries to do his part to bring other people in and to teach people and to, get other people work.
To kick the ladder down.
Yeah.
Like Tinian and Marguerite Bennett kind of flew under his wing a bit. So there's not a straight white male and those two. So
on that list.
Yeah. So
right.
I almost said could be good. Shit. I really am on the show, aren't I?
One of us. Yeah, I think I agree with what you both are putting down in terms of, like, would it be nice to see that? Yes, of course. But I think that in the context of what we're talking about, where Comixology is kind of trying to like make Comixology Originals happen, right? They're trying to make that a thing. I made the point at the top. Scott Snyder signing an exclusive deal with them for 8 books with an all-star list of creators. That's news, that's big news. That's news that people pay attention to and share, and, they'll buy these books. They'll show up for these books because Scott's a name, and do I wish that comics were, maybe a little bit less like that? Sure. Like it would be nice if more people felt more bold about picking up new number ones from creators that they're not familiar with. But I think that comes back to the conversation we have about comics being expensive. Buying a book from someone you've never heard of is a risk. If you know Scott Snyder and you like Scott Snyder, you're going to be more willing to pick up his work. And like, that's okay. Like there's nothing inherently wrong with that. It is just like when only these kinds of people get these kinds of opportunities that it becomes, I think like potentially a force for stagnation, right? Yeah. Like you want to keep elevating new voices. But I think to sign like a massive exclusive deal, you want to do that with a star, right? And Scott Snyder's a star at the right point in his career to make this move.
Yeah, so, the issue isn't with Comixology. The issue is with comics in general.
Yeah,
if
right.
There had been room for, somebody else to become that big star, then yeah, I'm sure Amazon or Comixology would be knocking on their door instead.
Mm-hmm.
So, I guess until we fix comics as a whole, this was just bound to happen.
Yeah, and I think to your point, Tyler, this being successful opens the opportunity for other people to get similar deals. Yeah. So hopefully we'll see more of that as time progresses. All right, so let's jump into the next story here. The Suicide Squad has been getting some advanced reviews, and critics are really, really liking it. There's a lot of positivity coming out around the film already, which is awesome. I probably not the biggest surprise, right? Like, people know that James Gunn can deliver a solid movie, and I think a lot of people have been thinking this would be kind of like the first, the first like good one, right, in a long time, or maybe ever, depending on how you feel about some of the movies in the past. So where's your excitement level at for this movie, I guess, to start? It's very imminent, and lately that is odd for me. Like, movies come out and I'm like, oh, that came out?
Yeah, time doesn't exist.
So I don't feel like I have hype for it necessarily, but I'm very confident that I'll enjoy it. I like James Gunn's films a lot for the most part.
Yeah,
I've seen it. So
you saw it already?
Yeah. It came out on yesterday here in the UK.
Oh, really?
Spoiler-free reaction.
Yay or nay?
Big yay.
Okay. Big yay.
From Cale, that's fucking big.
Yeah, it got through the jadedness of everything. So.
It did. I similar, I think, to what Pete was saying. I was sort of middle of the road on this one. I went in, kind of meh. I'd only seen the trailers when we record the show, and because of that, I never got to see them with sound. So I never really got to even see the trailers. But this film, I think, disarms you really quickly, and it does it really well.
Yeah.
I think it does suffer from some of the James Gunniness, but if you like that, you'll be into it. Here's the one spoilery thing I'll say, and it won't even be a spoiler. The thing you want to happen, and this could mean anything. I mean it for a very specific thing.
I know what it is.
The thing you want to happen happens 5 minutes in. Don't even worry about it.
Okay.
Don't even worry about it.
Okay.
I know what that is. I won't spoil it for you listeners.
I'm a big James Gunn fan. Like, I've liked Super. I like Slither as a movie.
Super.
Yeah. Super is a fucked up movie.
It's so fucking dark.
So like when I was like, oh, he's doing Suicide Squad. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Let's see what he can do.
I'm actually, you're never going to believe this. I'm actually kind of excited to have the review conversation too.
Interesting. Wow. I might actually go to a theater for this. Although that whole Delta shit is.
Do you want to sit on the review, Tyler? You should come review it.
Yeah, it depends on what it is.
Cool.
Oh wait, I'm not doing anything next week. I'm home alone. Yeah,
it's let me know. Party, baby.
Let me know. Yeah.
Seeing it in theater was a blast. Highly recommend it. Wear your mask. Do whatever you got to do. If you can see it in the theater, do it.
Your boy likes popcorn, so I don't know. I need to get like a popcorn efficient mask.
I really miss going to the movies. I would love to go to the movies.
Dude, I'm having this conversation with like Matt and my other friend Kevin. They're like, "No, man, I love watching stuff at home." I'm like, I just can't. I get distracted.
Yep.
I don't like that. Like if I watch it with my fiance, she could be like, "Can you pause it?" We were watching The Jungle Cruise last night, which first off, really fucking good.
Was it? Oh my god, cool.
Yeah, it's like a National Treasure, Mummy, Pirates of the Caribbean. It's got that flavor, and The Rock is just charming as shit. But like the fact that she could be like, "Hey, can you pause it real quick?" drives me wild. I'm not going to say no.
I know.
I'm not going to say like there's a moratorium on pausing. We're going to simulate the movie theater experience. No.
I'm so glad you brought that up because I have the exact same problem, and it's the thing that makes me not like it as much. Like I don't mind watching a new movie at home, really. I have a really big TV, so like turn the lights off. It's all right. It's close enough. The thing that bothers me is that it doesn't have that level of like intimacy and like the social contract of like the movie's on. Because like I had a moment where when we were watching Black Widow, where my fiance like she like asked me a question and I was like, please save all questions until the end of the showing.
See,
like I can go on my phone and look something up, and like in a theater, I cannot do that.
Yeah.
I mean, I can, but I'd be a dick.
I just like to adopt that attitude when I'm watching a movie of like, everyone put your fucking phone away. Like, we're going to turn the lights off. We're going to watch the movie. If you're going to piss your pants, I'll pause it. But otherwise, shut up and watch the movie.
No, hold that in too. That's part of the experience. Hold that shit in or you're going to miss something. Your call on that one.
Fair.
Always miss something. For me, I was talking about this with Jess. I was just like, after seeing Black Widow, I'm hungry to go to the movies again.
Yeah.
So getting to go see Suicide Squad, and then I was hoping to go see The Green Knight.
I might see that today, actually.
They delayed the release here again, so I can't do that. But
they delayed the Green Knight release in the UK.
Yeah, because because COVID is bad here again, was their reasoning.
Yeah.
So I don't know where the fuck they get off.
I think they think that movie's going to make like a ton of money in the UK, so they're like, we got to hold it.
Maybe. But yeah, I'm real bummed. But if you could see it in the theaters, it's absolutely worth it. It's incredible.
I'm really excited. You saying that, now I feel hyped. Like, you got me there because you hate everything. And when you like something, the nicest thing you say about it usually is, it's all right. It's pretty good.
I genuinely had a really good time.
I've heard you say that a thing that you rated an 8 out of 10 was, quote, pretty good. So for you to say that this is great, I'm like, this must be a 12. Like, this is fucking right up there with Citizen Kane.
It's still like a 9 out of 10, but like
for you, that's
I had a really good time.
I'll take it. So, couple questions I want to ask y'all with the context of this film. So we know the deal for this movie, right, came in a weird time, right? Like, James Gunn signed on to produce this movie during that, kind of falling out with Disney and, all the drama that kind of spun out from, a bunch of crazy right-wing people digging up old tweets he had already copped to when he signed with Disney in the first place, right?
Yeah.
That's all obviously kind of been like squashed, and we know he's working on a Guardians 3. He said he doesn't have plans for, movies beyond Guardians 3. What do we think happens if this movie's like a major success? Like, if this movie, is a critical darling, it makes money, like, do we see James Gunn like working with DC more? Do we see him wanting to do a sequel for this movie, even though like Margot Robbie has said she wants to take a break from playing Harley? Like, where do you guys see this kind of netting out from here?
I mean, I think Suicide Squad in general is a good vehicle, especially with HBO Max. Like, look what they're doing with Peacemaker. Like, you introduce a character, then you can do a TV series about it. It could be a 1-season TV series. It's like a good pipeline for this stuff. And if it does well, just keep introducing new characters.
I think the thing with James Gunn specifically, though, is that, and we talked about this last week, was it doesn't sound like he's crazy to do superhero movies anymore either.
Sure, yeah.
I think he's getting a little burned out with it as well. And that could be, we talked about various reasons for that and ways he could potentially mitigate that. But
sure,
end of the day, he may just want to make a romance movie.
I mean, he is doing 2 more Guardians things too.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's the Christmas thing too.
And I think he's filming the stuff for the ride at Epcot.
Oh,
too.
okay.
Yeah.
So he's working on it for a while yet.
Mm-hmm.
So he may just bounce unless the money's good enough.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. Like, I wonder if maybe there are other properties he's interested in engaging with, that like they could throw him. Because I feel like that's really where he shines, right? Is like working with characters that nobody cares about, so he can do something original, even though it is playing in somebody else's playground.
Was it him that did? Was it Brightburn?
No, I don't think it was him.
No, I think he produced it, and it was maybe someone related to him.
Yeah.
I feel like maybe like it was his brother or something. Like,
Brightburn is the horror Superman take.
It's written by Mark Gunn and Brian Gunn, who I think are his
How many guns are there? Jeez.
brothers, maybe.
Directed by David Yarovesky.
Yeah, and he was a producer on it. So
I mean, if you could just do what I guess Ben Affleck wanted to do, where like you do superhero movies that then fund the stuff you actually want to do, like not the worst gig ever.
I mean, that's the thing is, I definitely think he actually wanted to do this and has enjoyed it. But like, I also see where Cale's at, where it's like maybe he wants to do something smaller from here on. Maybe he's gonna want to pivot and. Because, like, I don't know. I feel like he really puts his heart and soul into these movies, and I think that's why people respond to them. Is that, like, they are... Like, Guardians, right, was, like, the first example of a movie in the MCU that was, like, yeah, it's the house style, but it's also really fucking weird and, like, got its own thing going on. And, like, I think he thrives in that environment, you know, if you can give him... stuff that people aren't precious about, you know, like I don't know that he's going to make a Superman movie. Right. But like, you know, I think there are a lot of characters I could see him doing interesting things with from here on out, in either camp, if that's what he's interested in doing. But I think at this point, the world's kind of his oyster, right? Like the dude has proved he can make fucking blockbuster movies for pretty much any age range. So I think whatever he feels like doing next, I'm excited to see. So before we jump into our main topic, we got one more story here that is kind of the latest on an ongoing development about DC and them kind of working with Walmart and trying to expand the YA market there. So we got another update there where they're kind of deepening that relationship with them, where it's called My First Comics, which is a program that's going to be launching in 500 different Walmarts and also available on Walmart.com. And the reasoning behind this is, you know, and again, we've talked about this a couple of times, so you've probably heard us reference some of these things, but Dave Pilkey's Dogman, right? And if you're our age, you probably know Dave Pilkey is the creator of Captain Underpants, is like constantly making just headlines for how much it sells, right? In the Games Radar article we're referencing here, the latest volume of it is called Mothering Heights, and it sold over 900K copies in 4 months since it released. So that's insane, right? Like that's clearly a huge market that exists. So DC is citing that as the reason that, you know, this is the fastest growing market that they can kind of get in on. And what they're kind of doing to throw their hat in the ring here is they've got 2 volumes that are going to launch the My First Comic program, which is My First Comic Batman, which is obviously a Batman story, Batman being DC's, you know, most popular character, and then My First Comic Space Jam: A New Legacy, which is, you know, obviously tying into the new Space Jam flick.
And Batman and Space Jam, the 2 genders.
Yes, exactly. So I thought this was interesting. The Batman story is mostly going to feature stories from DC's Batman Adventures series, which is like told in the style of the Batman the Animated Series cartoon. So it's kind of aping that art style. If you take a look at the pictures that they've shown, the previews,
and there are either, I think the stories they mentioned have been the more recent, like Ty Templeton stories, but also they mentioned Dan Slott, which I think he did that back in like the 90s.
Yeah, it says the debut issue will have No Asylum by Ty Templeton and Rick Burchett, Terry Beatty and Lee Lowridge, and then Who Am I by Dan Slott with Templeton.
Yeah, that's an old story if I remember that correctly. Yeah.
So yeah, it seems like they're repackaging self-contained stories from other releases and kind of making it like an anthology series that you can, you know, use as an inroad for kids with these kind of more self-contained stories. And then the Space Jam one's going to have 3 original stories about Bugs and Daffy, who are taking on the roles of Batman and Superman in Bat Bunny versus Super Duck, which is making fun of Dawn of Justice apparently.
Whoever wins, we lose.
Yeah, and then there's a Wile E. Coyote Roadrunner story, and then another one with Bugs and Marvin the Martian. So very very interesting. I mean, not surprising, I don't think, right? Like, as we've said, this is an emerging market, and it's one that is clearly making a ton of money if you can get in it at the right time. And DC's already seen success with this in Walmart, so the idea of them kind of like doubling down and trying to make more inroads for new readers and more like jumping on points for the uninitiated makes sense to me. I would have eaten this up as a kid, you know? These were the kind of books that I read when I got into comics.
I might want to read a Space Jam book.
There you go.
Like, also, like, it's a Space Jam book, but it's really just Looney Tunes stories. Like, is that what they're calling Looney Tunes from now on? I don't know. But
It might be. That might be the only way to get Looney Tunes across to the kids now.
I know. But I mean, if it works. I don't really have a Walmart near me, so it doesn't really.
Yeah.
I don't even really think I can easily check out myself.
Walmart.com.
I guess. I mean, maybe. I feel like these things would go fast though, if they're even on Walmart.com. So.
Walmart used to have a big book section, like when I was.
They still do.
That's where I.
Some of them do, yeah.
It depends on the Walmart, I guess, but yeah.
The ones I've been to, like in other states and stuff, it's a pretty, like, I've seen like the comic book, like standees that they have and stuff.
They have those?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think
depending on where you are.
I think I've seen them for like Red Rooster Comics, which I think is like Brightwiser's sort of thing.
Yes. Yep.
Which I've seen those there, and I've never seen the DC Walmart stuff in the wild.
Me neither.
Outside of like main comic book stores who have then got it and are reselling it for a bigger price.
I feel like I've seen the boxes for them.
Oh, I've seen plenty of boxes for them,
but they're always gone.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Guess what? Kids aren't picking those up. They're just collectors picking them up.
Adult
from what I see. Yeah.
Just like Pokemon cards. Yeah.
Yep. So I mean, if it works, cool. I mean, I think the better option is what they've been doing with their DC's been doing with their like YA novels and stuff. Mm-hmm. I think like the Piccolo books that have come out with like Beast Boy and Raven, like I think those are great.
Yeah.
And if this could be the bridge to that, sure.
Yeah, I could see this appealing to like an even younger crowd, you know, like I could see this being like an impulse buy, like, you know, I remember getting things like this as a kid, right? Like,
and this has coloring book pages in it too. Like it has like activities and stuff in it. So yeah.
Like,
yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, I could easily see this being the thing that like you're at Walmart, your kid's there, kid's bored, you know, oh, okay. My first comic. Perfect. Here, read this Batman book. Like,
shut up.
Yeah.
Start a lifelong obsession.
Yeah.
I guess I wonder, you know, they're going to have to put the product out, like really put it out, you know, not like those magazines, because
from what I remember, the comics would be in like two spaces, like collectible spaces of Walmart, which I don't really think many kids are going to. That's like NECA toys and stuff like that. And like the 1-Up arcade machines are around there. So like, it's kind of in the back of most stores. Huh. The other place I've seen the comics is like with like the Pokemon cards and stuff like that. Yeah, so that I think that's a better spot too. Yeah.
I've seen some stores where they like the more like book style ones are just with the books too. So it's like, you know, they kind of break it up depending on like the format of the book too, depending on the store, which makes sense, I think.
Yeah. My point being, like, they're going to have to give every Walmart like a ton.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So that this other mess doesn't happen.
I feel like the move with this would be to just throw it like most Walmarts are like this, where they have the collectibles are like right near the checkout. So that like it can be an impulse buy. Like I think that's what you need to do. Like you want this to be in the same way that like you'll go to like a Walmart or a Target and they'll have like those not DVDs, it's Blu-rays now. But like, you know, like it's here. It's like
like the end caps at the cash registers.
Yeah. It's like buy the Spider-Verse DVD. It's on sale. And I'm like, you know what? Yeah, sure.
Like used to put the Archie's Double Digest in there.
I think that's the way you really put a book like this over. You know, like make it a thing that like, you know, little Timmy or Susie or whoever can fucking see it as you're leaving and be like, please, like, I want this. I love Space Jam. I love Batman.
Shut up. Here's a quarter.
There you go. So yeah, I think this is smart. This is definitely an initiative from DC that I'm supportive of. I think the best way to get hobbyists introduced to something is you get them while they're young and you make it connected to the only happy memories that they have, and there you go.
The old-fashioned way, where I found my dad's Uncanny X-Men comics and got introduced to Jean Grey. That's what you do.
The old-fashioned way.
Yeah, the old-fashioned way. Yeah.
Boy, that could have gone a very different direction. It's just a wrong box away from just being.
Oh, the wrong box. Where was that title 6 years ago?
The wrong. We had other titles for other shows that I will not discuss on the show.
Oh boy. So pivoting from that very light story, we're gonna head into our main topic, which is a heavy one. So Thought Bubble is a major comic book convention across the pond in the UK. Cale's attended it several times, so I'm sure you'll have plenty to say about this story. And they made headlines this week with Frank Miller being uninvited to the event, which, we'll get into all the context of why, but obviously there were a lot of feelings about that on both sides of the fence for this one. So we'll jump into all that right now.
So, Cale, I do have a question. Since you've been to Thought Bubble, how would you describe the vibe of that kind of convention? It's always seemed like a more indie thing than...
yes, very much a UK indie market. Yeah. I think I was there just... I went in 2013, and that was very specific because that was the year Gillen and McKelvey got big with Young Avengers.
Okay.
And that's like their home convention. And then I think the year after that, or a couple of years after that, was when Comixology came and really started bringing in the big guests. But yeah, mostly indie creators. They really try to focus on creating a very welcoming environment. The staff is always crazy helpful, always highly praised for the way they handle situations and things.
It always felt like it was like comics first sort of convention.
Yes, very much so.
Not a giant commercial clusterfuck like a New York or a San Diego Comic-Con.
Yes. Yep. Very much so.
So when Frank Miller was even announced for it, I was like, oh, well, interesting.
So they have big creators. Like a couple of years ago, they had Gerard Way.
Okay.
And famously, they weren't prepared for the amount of people that turned up for Gerard Way.
Yeah, My Chemical Romance fans.
That was mostly it.
Yeah.
Teenage goth girls got in a fight because they couldn't meet him or something. And it was a whole thing. I have a friend whose wife worked, it wasn't security, but she was, staff and
line management, I guess, would be the next best. Yeah.
They had to pull these girls apart. And the thing is, like, that year they had taken over like the Leeds City Square and had great big tents in several parts of the town square. And they had to like escort them out of that part of town.
Oh my God.
But even like Gerard Way, he's a big name, but like in terms of comics, kind of an indie guy.
I mean, there are a lot of other like names of that size or like slightly bigger. Like even just looking at the list for this year of like the folks that are confirmed to be going. I mean, the first several lines of people are all, fairly well-known names, but like you do have a few big stars. Like you've got Joel Jones, you've got Scott Snyder, Babs Tarr, Gail Simone, James Tinian, Brom V, like G. Willow Wilson, there's David Aya. There's like a lot of folks there that are, I would say in that upper tier, if not maybe, like S rank, like a Frank Miller, but like Scott Snyder is there,
sure.
Gail Simone's there.
Yeah. But like Frank Miller is like,
It's
legendary.
like a Mount Rushmore status. Yeah.
Sure. Of course. So to contextualize the story a little bit here. I'm going to be pulling from an article from Comics Beat by Dean Simmons.
Love Comics Beat, by the way.
Yeah,
very,
shout out to
very
Comics
good
Beat. Thanks for the
website.
work. So this came just 2 days ago now, was when they dropped Frank Miller from the guest list. So I'll read from the article a bit. It says, Thought Bubble, one of the UK's leading comic shows, has announced that Frank Miller will no longer be a guest at this year's show. Comes after a two-day period of outcry on social media following Shortbox publisher. Hey, you know what, Tyler? This is your turn. You wanna?
Yeah. Where is it? Where is it?
You want to read this name?
Where is it? Let's see. I'm on the Comics Beat thing.
I think I actually got it, but
I think it's Zainab Akhtar.
I believe it's Zainab
Akhtar. Okay.
Yeah,
definitely got Akhtar right though. So yes, Zainab Akhtar's statement that the festival had failed to address her concerns regarding Miller's past Islamophobic work and Akhtar's subsequent withdrawal of support from the show. So there's a rough timeline of what happened. I don't know that we need to go through the entire series of events, but essentially, on June 2nd was when Thought Bubble announced its second guest lineup, which was when Frank Miller, was announced as a guest. And at that point, there wasn't like a major, that didn't really like rock the boat right away, but it says here, following Thought Bubble's announcement of Miller as a guest, it appears some other exhibitors, including Akhtar, immediately issued private complaints and reservations to festival organizers about having Miller as a guest, citing his past Islamophobic work and seeing his presence as inviting a racist element into the safe and inclusive space that the Thought Bubble has vocally claimed itself to be. Allegedly, a process of discussion and consideration of the complaints took place, but on Monday, July 27th, Thought Bubble chose to side with keeping Frank Miller, likely assuming any controversy would blow over, as none had occurred publicly at that point, at the initial announcement, or up until this point, and that the big ticket draw of Miller would provide a vital financial lifeline after the pandemic lockdowns and cancellations last year. And then in response to that, that was when Akhtar, made her kind of public statement on Twitter, which was just a few days ago now. And that was kind of when she announced that she was going to be withdrawing and boycotting Thought Bubble. So I'll read her statement. So her initial statement was, "Hello, everyone. I'm sorry to inform you that Shortbox and I will no longer be attending Thought Bubble Festival this November. I was invited as a guest in 2020, which rolled over to this year. I've been excited to attend, represent my authors, and share our books with readers after almost 2 years of no conventions. However, as a proud Muslim woman, I cannot in good conscience attend a festival that deems it appropriate to invite and platform Frank Miller, a person who is responsible for the propagation of abhorrent anti-Muslim hate, particularly via his work. Anti-Muslim bigotry is repugnant and condemnable, yet has become so deeply rooted, so widely accepted in society, that it is not even given a cursory consideration, as evidenced once again in this situation. I cannot comprehend how time and time again festivals and communities within comics espouse values regarding inclusivity, diversity, comics being for everyone, in quotes, zero tolerance on hate, but all that lip service evaporates when they are asked to enact those same values." And then she also quote tweeted that and offered a clarification later that same day, where they said, for clarity, I contacted Thought Bubble about this privately 8 weeks ago. After discussions, I was assured action would be taken. This week, it has been communicated to me that I am the acceptable loss. Repercussions to my career/income over repercussions to theirs. So, obviously, a strong statement from Akhtar there, and that wasn't where things ended. So after that, there were, fans, friends, creative peers who, rallied around her decision to do this, and basically, it became a pretty big narrative, right? Of like Thought Bubble is choosing this problematic, legendary creator over this, independent publisher that is run by an Islamic woman, and that flies in the face of the values that Thought Bubble, claims to hold dear, right?
Mm-hmm.
So with more threats of boycotts and withdrawals coming, they announced a follow-up the next day and said that Thought Bubble they provided a statement, and I'll read that statement here. We don't have to read the whole thing, but they have kind of like the Twitter boil down. They say, over the last 14 years, Thought Bubble has grown into an amazing community of comic creators and fans who we love, trust, and respect. We have let you down, and in our commitment to maintaining Thought Bubble as a safe space for all, we have fallen short. We exist to share the art form and its worlds with people. If any individual, group, or community feels uncomfortable or excluded from our show, then we failed. We know that many of you are disappointed in us, and we have been expecting a comment on this before now. We are sorry for our silence while we have been trying to fix this. Frank Miller will not be attending Thought Bubble. We are deeply sorry, particularly to those who we should be standing up for the most. We hope that you can give us the opportunity to make this better, and we thank you for holding us accountable. We know there is still much more to discuss, and we will be replying to those who have been in touch. We hope you can bear with us while we do this. We won't let you down again. Yours, Team Thought Bubble. So there's some more details we'll probably get into here and there throughout as we engage in the story. But Cale, I want to give you the first word on this. Now that I've set the table, I know you have been to Thought Bubble. You have a relationship with the show. It's a show that you've loved and championed in the past. How does this story make you feel? How does the choice that they've made feel? And then how do you feel about the kind of walk back and response of things?
I mean, the whole thing sucks. I mean, there's no way around it. This Thought Bubble doesn't often make moves like this. But when they do, like, man, it's tough. Zenabe is and the short box is a staple of Thought Bubble and has been for a few years. And she has built short box to be a powerhouse in the indie UK comic scene. They started as a mail service where you do a Kickstarter and then you're mailed 5 to 7 indie books, and that's just grown, and then they can sell them at Thought Bubble. The thing is, like, I think Thought Bubble was at just an impasse, and I think the reality of it is, like, they had to choose between Frank Miller coming in and potentially bringing them money or alienating a successful indie creator that, frankly, they have helped bring up to a certain extent. I'm sorry, I certainly don't want to take away from Zenabe and Shortbox's success, but they have a lot of success at Thought Bubble. And if you ask me, I mean, they made the wrong choice. They chose to try to get Frank Miller. The problem that I see, aside from Zenabe's comment about them being the safe space that they proclaim to be, my problem is that in their walk back or their apology or whatever, it doesn't feel like anything. It doesn't, they say Frank Miller's not invited. We're trying different things, blah blah blah, but it never I don't know, it didn't read like we're listening, we're sorry, we understand the complaints. Sorry.
Can I just synthesize what I think you're like? It felt like when the money that they would have gotten for Frank Miller, and then the money that people actually protesting was more than what they would have gotten for Frank Miller is when they actually made the choice. It was just a money move. It was what it felt like.
Well,
Right.
Like the scales tipped in the wrong way. Yeah.
Even that, it doesn't even seem like if you just read that statement alone, it doesn't even seem like that was the choice. Like it could have even been that, oh yeah, Frank Miller couldn't make it. He was worried about COVID or whatever. You know, which is a valid, you know, would also be a valid reason. But
Sure.
my point is like, it's so vague.
You think so?
It doesn't-
I mean, they say we're deeply sorry. They say, particularly to those we should have been standing up for, we won't let you down again. Like, I'm not necessarily disagreeing with you that I think that the money move point is valid. More just like you feel like the actual announcement isn't owning up to it enough.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I think, I don't feel like I feel like they should say why he was uninvited or why he's not coming.
I think I could agree with that. There is the full statement. There's a possibility that there is additional context in the full statement. If you want to take a look at that, but
I thought that was the full statement.
So that's as I mentioned. You can see the tweet that they put out. It's you can read the full thing on. They have a blog post about it.
It looks like it's the same thing. The only thing added is refund policies.
There you go.
Yeah.
So, that's my sort of trying to see both sides from Thought Bubble's point of view. You know, I think they had a hard choice, and they didn't stick to their mission. They stuck to what they wanted to do in the meantime. And that's obviously just, my perception of it, but they just made their own call. Yeah. And they were in a hard position that was, going to hurt them one way or the other.
What about you, Tyler? Where are you at with this story right now?
I think COVID definitely puts a wrinkle in all this, especially when it comes to the money. And I don't want to just keep harping on the money aspect of it, but someone like Frank Miller, just the collector's market in general would sell tickets there, not to disregard, but disregarding the actual content of his work, especially his more recent work, just as a name, it's a huge get. Selling tickets, you can sell the autographs, you can sell photo opportunities,
Yep.
From a business standpoint, on paper, it looks like a good move. It's like, all right, here's a good way to recoup a lot of what we didn't actually make last year. But then from a human standpoint, it sucks. Yep. And that's just the dichotomy between money and humanity that just sucks about this, especially when it's like a big independent, convention. And as conventions get bigger from growing from independence, does it start getting into the point where oh, they're starting to sell out now, is part of the pushback, maybe a little pushback against that, this is becoming not the independent thing, or I don't know, but I think there definitely should have been someone to be like, hey, isn't this the guy who wrote Holy Terror? Might that be an issue?
So,
I know his people are kind of just parading around his sound fucked up, but the husk of Frank Miller at conventions, this dude's ancient. Why are they bringing him out to a convention in a country where in
the land of COVID?
Yeah, exactly. I don't know. That it's a mess all around.
Should we? Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. What were you going to say?
Should we contextualize the Islamophobic business?
I was going to.
Yeah.
Okay,
I just wanted to take. I wanted to make one last comment here. I think.
Yeah.
So the thing that I think I found to be interesting was there was another tweet from Akhtar who said, so in black and white, I was used to do Thought Bubble's dirty work for them, and as an acceptable sacrifice in order for them to garner and provide quote unquote proof to Miller's team and extract themselves from the situation. And I think I think that's the thing that I find the most frustrating is I think that like, and I one other piece of context I guess I will offer is in the replies to their initial response, they're obviously seeing a lot of criticism. And one of the things that that somebody pointed out was the money move angle of it. And they provided some context here that I think is worth pointing out just to be fair. So someone here said, too little, too late. You sided with Miller because you knew he'd draw in more revenue until what happened became public and you had to save face. You're not the first. You won't be the last. And they replied and said, we've been working on this now for 8 weeks and have only been able to put something out publicly now. We know this doesn't make it better and we are deeply sorry. Thought Bubble is a nonprofit, so all revenue goes directly towards running the show and then to charity. So worth pointing that out. Not to mean that doesn't mean that they don't care about money, but worth pointing out.
Let's platform Islamophobia to give it to charity. Like,
yeah.
Which one are you doing there? Yeah.
Fair play, right? But again, just wanted to provide that context. Want to be fair in our presentation of the story. So to provide you with the context of kind of Frank Miller's history of Islamophobia and how that why people are making that claim, right? So Tyler has mentioned now at least once Holy Terror, right? Which was a comic that he wrote specifically in the context of kind of post 9/11 and this rage, this hurt, whatever you want to describe it, hate over those terrorist attacks, right? And Frank Miller wrote that in it came out in 2011.
Wild.
So that's 10 years.
Yeah, I know. That's nuts.
I only just found that out today.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
So this
is that even post 9/11 at this point? Like Dark Knight Strikes Again, I think is a direct post 9/11.
Yeah. Didn't that happen while 9/11 happened?
Yeah, and you can see it on the page. Like if there's one thing I will credit Frank Miller is like the guy bleeds himself onto the page.
Sure.
In sometimes horrible ways, like Holy Terror. It's literally a guy just, I believe, just going around killing Muslim people. Like that's the book.
Yeah.
Like I don't think there's no nuance to it. It's literally hate crime, the graphic novel. And it's, I don't know even how was that even published? I mean, I guess 2011, different time.
Well, I think it also speaks to what I can't remember her last name, Akhtar. What Shortbox has been talking about, right? Which is that, I mean, post 9/11, like Islamophobia is extremely accepted in our society, right? Like it's not uncommon, and I mean, you can look at. I don't want to bring real world politics into this, but it's something that we're literally still dealing with today, right? Like it's just as prevalent now as it was in maybe not in the immediate aftermath of 9/11, but it's a normalized thing. It's not a thing that you have to look hard to see in our society.
And Cale, correct me if I'm wrong, but it is notoriously a bad issue in the UK.
Yes,
from what I understand.
Yeah.
I mean, that was one of the major motivators of Brexit, right? Like, but
general xenophobia,
right? It's general xenophobia and wanting to like maintain British culture, right? So again, I don't want to get too in the weeds about things that are unrelated to this, but the point remains that Islamophobia is it is all related. My point being, Islamophobia is alive and well, right?
Yeah.
So, and I think this being released 10 years after 9/11, any kind of recency, whatever, you want to attribute to that.
9/11 fucked up Frank Miller real bad.
Yeah, clearly. Sure. And that doesn't justify
No, it doesn't.
That action. Of course not. But clearly he was affected by the event. So something that I have in kind of my supporting notes here, right, is like Frank Miller has said that he no longer stands by the comic and like sees that it was coming from a place of rage and anger and hate that he doesn't necessarily see in himself anymore. But I think that it does raise a question here, right? And that's what we're about here, right? Is having the conversation. So like, do you feel that the creation of that book and what he's done to perpetuate those ideas through his work, like, what does that mean for his legacy, right? You said earlier, Tyler, that he's one of the people you could think of as making a case for being on like the Mount Rushmore of comics, right? For example, does that book, make him somebody that should not be invited to be a part of the community anymore, right? Does that mean he shouldn't be invited to conventions? Does that mean that I don't know, that he's burned, that he's canceled, right?
I'm gonna say it's a big it depends.
Yeah.
Like I think with a convention like Thought Bubble, wrong move. Some of the core values sound like it's all about inclusivity,
Right.
This is like getting a notoriously homophobic writer to be at FlameCon or something,
Yeah.
So, but does that mean Frank Miller should not go to convention in general? It's hard for me to say yes to that. Because most conventions only care about money. Like this wouldn't matter to the big money makers at, I don't know, like Reed Pop or something like that. He's always there, but also like, I wonder, like, what if he was at Thought Bubble and they had a panel about this? What if he can actually address that? If there's some actual, I mean, I don't know if he could even do a panel at this point, but
yeah. Would he?
I don't know.
It would have to be on his own.
Terms.
Terms. Well, and he would have to be the one to do it, to make that happen.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. He'd have to, I mean, he's denounced his book, apparently, Pete. I didn't know he's done that. I still see it on Barnes and Noble shelves. Like the book is still out
for
there.
sale. That's
Really?
the point. Yeah. It's like, I mean,
and
like,
you can tell because it's like 300. It's like that oddly
Wild.
sized book. It's like widescreen. So like that shit sticks out of bookshelves. Like you will see it instantly.
I've only ever seen 300. I don't think I've ever seen it out in the wild.
No, I've seen it in the wild. Yeah.
I think
Recently.
the thing is, like, he regrets it. He doesn't stand by it. Fine. But that's not saying sorry.
No.
Yeah. No, I agree. There's no action.
And the fact that it still came out a decade later, like he wrote that, he illustrated it, and then he had to take the time to find someone who would publish it. In all that time, Frank Miller never had the idea, after a decade, never had the thought, hey, actually, maybe this isn't such a good idea.
Well, and here's the thing. I pulled up the context of like how it's been said and like what Miller has said about it. So I'll clarify. So, when the book came out, it had a lot of criticism. There are quotes from Stan Lee and Grant Morrison here on the Wikipedia page criticizing it. So, not in great company. So Miller, and here I'm quoting from the Wikipedia page. Miller responded generally to these criticisms on his blog, again referring to the book as intentional propaganda, quote unquote, without apology, and saying, I'm too old to serve my country in any other way. Otherwise, I'd gladly be pulling the trigger myself.
Oh my God.
Those are his original comments about this book.
Or his original ones.
Original.
From
this is
2011?
Like 2000, so it says here.
I believe it was announced well in advance too, so these could be in build up.
Yeah, so the original publication was in 2011, but the criticism of it came around 2006 because that was when it was announced. It was originally announced as a not a black label book, a Batman book.
Yeah, it was.
So that's the context, right? And then in 2018. This is when he expressed his, his kind of, updated comments on it. he expressed regret for writing Holy Terror, saying, "When I look at Holy Terror, which I really don't do all that often, I can really feel the anger ripple out of the pages. I don't want to wipe out chapters of my own biography, but I'm not capable of that book again."
So he can't draw it again? What does that mean?
I mean, that's the thing, right?
Have you read Master Race? Like,
Yeah. Like,
and that's the thing, right? Is like contextualize that as remorse if you want. That's fine. I think that's fair to say. Like, but it's not an apology. It's not I was wrong and I've changed and here's how, right? And I think for me it's hard to not. I don't know. I think when we have these conversations, right? I understand wanting to give someone the benefit of the doubt. You know, that's a fine place to start conversations like this in good faith. But to me, I look at this and, you know, whether or not maybe he looks back on that book and says, I wouldn't write that again. I wouldn't do that again. But it doesn't seem like he's that.
Yeah, it's an internal thing. Remorse is an internal thing. It's, I regret doing that for how it made me feel or what happened to me because of it.
Or how it made me look or whatever.
Yeah,
you know, and it doesn't feel like he's grown to a point where he's like, I can't believe I felt this way, and here's why this is wrong and how I've grown and changed as a person. And, you know, you could make the argument that he doesn't owe us that, but then I would make the argument that we don't owe you a place in the industry, you know?
Yeah, I mean, to that point, like, here's the thing. You can't cancel Frank Miller.
No, you can't.
He's Frank Miller.
He also defined a genre. Like, he defined current day comic books. It's ingrained into it. Yeah.
Like, we're lucky if we get another comic out of him. Like, he's next to dead. Like,
and I think, you know, we often do end up having that conversation too, right? Of like, does somebody like who's done a bad thing or what's up, Cale? Go ahead.
In fact, it might be more of a punishment to make him go to Comic-Con.
Yeah, we should have. You're saying he should have gone to the Thought Bubble as everybody expose him to crowds.
Oh my gosh. And I think, you know, you can have that conversation, right? About like, does Frank Miller being a shitty person or being an Islamophobe or creating bad work in the back half of his career, however you want to define it, does that negate his overall contributions to like the medium or the art form? Like, no, I wouldn't make that argument. But I also think that like in 2021, what is his real relevance to what comics are today aside from his legacy, right? Like, it's not. It's that he's going because he's a living legend and there are people that have a connection to his work and want to meet the man or get the signature or whatever. And that's all well and good. But I also think that, like, you know, you can acknowledge what his work has meant to comics while still taking him to task, you know? Like, they're not mutually exclusive. There are plenty of Frank Miller titles that I've read and enjoyed in my history as a comic book reader, right? I haven't read any of them in recent memory, so who's to say what I would feel about them in 2021, but you know, that is what it is. The contributions are what they are. That doesn't mean that he just gets carte blanche to say or do whatever he wants and that nobody should, you know, should hold him accountable for that, you know? In the same way that it was absolutely his right as a creator and as a person with, you know, a platform to write that book. That was his right as a storyteller to do that. But it's my right as a consumer to say, well, I reject that and I reject those values and those attitudes, and that I don't want to support an organization that supports that.
Yep. Yeah.
Yep. And like since Holy Terror, he's had plenty of opportunity to speak on this. There's no statement for this matter from the Miller team that I've seen. It's just radio silence.
I'm sure he doesn't give a shit.
That's why I'm saying team. Like,
yeah,
I would assume at least he has somebody, you know. I don't expect Frank Miller to say shit. But that says something for his character too, you know. So
I think, you know, okay, fine. You're offended that, you know, people are calling him a racist. Okay, fine. He still wrote a great big racist ass book.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like, that's it.
Yeah. And maybe it sucks to think about the guy who wrote your favorite Daredevil or Batman or Wolverine stories is an asshole.
Yep.
Or
Or
that's
racist.
fucking life. Yeah, yeah, or racist, Islamophobe. Yeah, even like Sin City stuff. There's a lot of misogyny in that book too.
Yeah.
So, yeah, if you can't come to terms with that as a fan, you got to reevaluate. Like there are things that are bigger than your love for a piece of sequential art. You know.
And
Right.
and to honestly, I think the comparison of Mount Rushmore and
Yeah,
putting
Weirdly
him on it
appropriate.
is completely appropriate. It's a great big shit stain on this beautiful land of ours.
so you're saying he would fit right in on a Mount Rushmore? Yeah.
That's exactly what I'm saying.
Yep.
Sure. Yeah, so I think ultimately we're all on the same page here in this conversation in terms of where our sensibilities lie,
Yeah.
right? Like I think I don't feel like it's a hot take to say that I think
No, he's
Thought
been on
Bubble
the cusp.
did the wrong thing. They made a mistake here.
Miller's been on the cusp of internet cancellation for decades now, like since the dawn of the internet. I mean, he just recently came out with The Dark Knight 3 titled The Master Race. Like,
And that didn't get him canceled. Like
That was 2 years ago.
Wild.
yeah, yeah. I mean, we should have canceled him for the Fedora choice, in my opinion. But that's
course.
just me. But
So I think where I guess I'll end it is, where do you feel Thought Bubble goes from here? Like, do you think that this is a stain on Thought Bubble's reputation, or do you think that they have the ability to kind of mend fences and move on from this?
can I ask for some clarity? Is Shortbox going now that this happened, or just like
I was going to say,
No.
I've not seen any confirmation that that's the case.
Okay.
So I would believe
Gotcha.
that they're still not attending.
Yeah, I don't think so. This also isn't the first time something like this has happened with her in the center of it. So
You mean a Muslim woman who makes comics gets a lot of harassment on the internet?
oh,
Well,
guess
That
who's having
doesn't sound right.
guess what section of Twitter is having a heyday with this?
yeah, oh yeah.
Yeah.
Who?
I think if they'll this year, I think it'll proceed as normal without Frank Miller,
Sure.
and without Shortbox. I think it'll suck for fans of Shortbox, but before this, they've also released a Kickstarter that seems to be doing incredible now. So,
Yeah, it's doing really well.
Yeah.
I bet this helped, honestly, because their goal was 30K and they have over double that right now, and there's 10 days left to go. I'd never heard of Shortbox before. I'm gonna back it. It sounds pretty cool.
their stuff is really, really good.
Heard something similar to Shortbox, but
And that's not to say none of that should be viewed as like a publicity stunt or whatever.
Yeah.
No, not at all. It's not what
Zenev
happened.
is a very honest and righteous individual. They're good people. But I think we'll have to wait and see what happens next year.
Yeah, I think that's fair to say. I hope. I do hope that things are able to be salvaged. I think, as much as I definitely agree, or I guess I should say I stand by what I said earlier, in that, like, I think that they clearly made a mistake, and I think they made the wrong call on this story. Based on, what you've said about Thought Bubble in the past, Cale, and kind of what a lot of the people who I think were hurt by this news had said about what the show had meant to them, and what the community of Thought Bubble had meant for being a convention that was inclusive and focused on the indie space more so than mainstream stuff. That's a valuable convention. Yeah. So I hope that they're able to come to a resolution so that, like, those who have been affected feel like the issue's been adequately addressed, and that, like, Shortbox is comfortable coming back next year. And I think that's going to be the thing that I'd like to see, because people make mistakes, right? Like, I don't think that this means that Thought Bubble has to be burned.
Look, people make mistakes, like publishing an Islamophobic book a decade later.
Wait, who published the book? Because
I want to say Dark Horse.
Okay, so Dark Horse.
Really?
I don't know. Okay, hold on. Let's see. I don't know the answer. I know Dark Horse did.
I won't like the answer. It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter who.
Oh, Legendary Comics.
Oh, cool.
So
never heard of them.
The people who did. Is that the company that did 300?
yeah, it's the
film
movie
company?
company. They've done like Pacific Rim. They've done.
Good grief.
They've done Godzilla.
They wanted to make it a movie, probably.
Oh, I bet. Yeah. I mean, it looks like they're still publishing stuff as of now.
Yeah. Yeah. They're trying to break into the comic space. Have been for a while. Yeah.
Did they do?
I feel like Chris Hardwick was attached to them at some point too.
Wow. They're just really good at lining up problematic figures, huh?
Well, I mean, Godzilla.
Oh, Morrison was on this. He won an Eisner for a book on here.
Okay. That's you got some clout now, okay? But anyway, we'll see where this goes. I think obviously I think you're right, Cale. I think this year it's going to be odd. It'll go on as usual, and we'll see what the backlash really ends up amounting to. But I think next year is really going to be the year that we'll see what this means for Thought Bubble.
Yeah, there needs to be some actionable change, I think.
Yeah.
With something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, it seems like their community is not willing to let this blow over. With probably good reason. So we did it, folks. We made it through. Thank you for joining us here in another episode of the Comics Pals. These kinds of discussions are not quite as fun as us just monkeying around, but I think it's important that we have them. And I appreciate that we have a show and have cultivated an audience where we can have these kind of conversations respectfully. So, if you want to weigh in on this or any of the other stories we talked about this week, you can get us on the Discord. Come join our ever-growing community over there where it's a great time. We've got channels for everything from comic books to anime to wrestling to video games. So if you want to come and connect with us or with people who listen to the show and are interested in the same kind of stuff that you are, we're always kind of continuing the conversations that start on the show over on the Discord. And often getting questions and comments that spur new segments on the show. So come be a part of it. We'd love to hear from you. If you're a longtime listener or a new listener and you've never written into the show before, I challenge you to write in for next week's show. We'd love to get your takes. We're all over the place. Go check out our brand new show that Tyler hosts called Journey to Quiztree. Tyler, you want to just give the elevator pitch to it real quick? Yeah,
it's a comic book quiz show where I get 4 people on the show. Last week it was these two fellas and Sean and Phil. And I just ask them questions, see who can answer the most, and they get strange. We tested out everyone's art skills on the most recent episode. So let's just say people can tell what a boob is.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah.
Listen. I know what a boob looks like. It doesn't matter what the figure is. I know what a boob looks like.
No, definitely check it out. It was a lot of fun. If you want to see Sean get real mad at the end too, it's a great way of watching that. So yeah, definitely check it out. It was a lot of fun. We'll be doing that monthly. With different people. So
it was a blast. We'll definitely be keeping that show going. So go check out the pilot episode. We'd love your feedback. That was only the first episode. Sure. So if you have thoughts on, maybe some other segments or, anything.
Like round categories. If you have ideas for that, I'm going to try and play. I'm playing around with I'm actually like watching like old quiz shows. I'm like, all right, how can I incorporate something like this into it? So yeah, ideas, feel free.
Yeah, so go check that out. We've got tons of great content right now. We've been on a tear lately. Go check out our weekly image reviews that drop every Wednesday. We've got our reviews for DC, Marvel, and everything else going up on Thursdays now with Tyler as a regular chair over on that show. So go check that out. And we got our newest book club for Suicide Squad out this week. We got a ton of stuff. So go check out all the
Suicide Squad book is good.
It was a good one. Yeah. It was a good one. Go show your support however you can, however you choose to. We appreciate it. And we'll catch you next week for another episode. Plugs. I forgot to do this last time I hosted. Not going to forget this time.
There we go.
Let's do some plugs. First goes me. I'm @loud_Pete on Twitter and Instagram. Come follow me and chat with me about anything. I don't know. Just come talk to me. It's cool. If you want to get some more content from me, you can go check out my band, Long Friend, Time Friend. We have got some new music coming out in the next couple months. Our debut album came out earlier this year. If you like noisy punk rock and leftist shit, go check out our music. We're pretty good. And then you can also go check out the rebrand / new video game podcast that I'm doing. The Potscast, the old video game show that I used to host, is now becoming something new. It's going to be called the Flip Screen Games Podcast. If you want to hear all about that, you can go check out the last episode of the Potscast on that feed, or go head over to flipscreen.games, and you'll get links to all the stuff. It's going live on the 9th, so go check it out. Cale.
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at TotoIntow. That's TOTOINTOW. You can find my work at caleward.com. CALEWARD.com. In big news this week, the new Kamen Rider has been announced. Kamen Rider Revice. And the cool thing about him
Revice?
is that Revice. REVICE.
That's a word?
You got me.
Sure.
The cool thing about him is his suit is incredibly different from any other Kamen Rider I've seen. He's got a dinosaur motif that sort of doubles as like a demon.
Okay.
You've retweeted this, I believe.
Yes, several times.
This shit does look cool.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So there are a lot of Kamen Riders whose deal is he's two people, but he becomes one, which is a Kamen Rider. This guy is one person, but he becomes two. So he's attached to a demon that when he does his morph, his henshin, as it were, the demon that's attached to him gains life and is another Kamen Rider. So there's the Revice, REVICE, is the combination of them as a team. And then there's Kamen Rider Revi, which is the main guy, and then the demon has a name, and he's also a Kamen Rider.
He's ice.
It's weird. It's weird. It's also got a weird focus on Japanese bathhouses. I don't know. It's weird.
Cool.
It's weird.
Check it out, Tyler.
Yeah.
So yeah, if you're still here after that, you can follow me at the Tyler Olson on Instagram and Twitter. If you guys want to play some Pokemon Unite, I'm playing way too much of it. Also, you can check out Ramen Rider. It's my new ramen shop, where all the dishes are
that's a great idea.
Named after different kaiju. So
I'm in.
I want to go.
Yeah, I'm in.
Tyler, are you playing Unite later?
Possibly. Yeah, I might be busy today, but
Well, hit me up.
if you're talking later, then yeah, I'm definitely good. Yeah.
The missus is gone. I'm fucking hanging out doing nothing today. Let's play video games.
Snorlax playing me right now.
Let's go. All right.
Guys, all three of us are in the exact same position. And
just going stag all week.
Yeah, download the fucking game, Cale. Let's sit in our underwear and play Pokemon.
Play something fun.
That game
It's
is fun. Okay,
you
anyway.
can be Gengar.
We'll see you next week for another episode of the Comics Pals.
So
Why would I want that?
Take it easy, everybody. Like, share, subscribe. We love you. Bye.
See you next week.